Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On this most monumentous and historical of days, I would like to talk to you about the idea, the political theory that connects individuals and their governments. This is the idea of a social contract. You'll be hearing more about this social contract in coming months. It's an idea that's almost as old as the concept of good as opposed to mere governance itself. Ancient Greeks, all the way over to ancient Buddhists, struggled with the idea of how a people ought to balance the needs of the many with the rights of the few. But this struggle was largely deluged in despotism and tyranny until the Enlightenment in Western Europe began to take up the issue once again in the 1600s or so. Social contract is generally said to be the idea that people give up implicitly or explicitly certain rights, privileges, prerogatives, and sovereignties to a larger government body to ensure that the greatest good be accomplished in society with the least amount of fuss. This philosophy underlies the formation and legitimacy of all modern governments. As long as our rights and will is safeguarded by that government, we refrain from complete autonomy. We pay taxes, we follow the laws, we register for military service, we cede the right to arbitrate justice to the government. An Englishman named Thomas Hobbes argued that this social contract be held together by the strength of force, while John Locke, an Englishman, also argued that it be held together by morals and consensus. Now, this is a gross oversimplification, but it's necessary for our short discussion. Unfortunately for both of these brilliant thinkers, they were overshadowed by a French radical named Rousseau, whose proto-Marxist ideas of collective will foreshadowed not only the French Revolution, but also the rationale of authoritarian governments for the next 200 years. His statement that people must be forced to be free was later echoed by Marxist treatises about dictatorships of the proletariat and such. Luckily for the people of the United States, Hobbes and Locke's ideas had more bearing on our founding fathers, which is one reason that our revolution looked so different from the French and the Haitian ones that soon followed, much less bloody. It also explains why socialism has had such a hard time gaining a foothold in the United States more than a century after it was widespread on the European continent. But now, in the 21st century, things are different. After a century of importing socialists by the millions, and by modeling our national and foreign policies on nations more heavily influenced by Rousseau's thinking than by Hobbes or Locke, we have reached a fork in the road. The social contract, forged by heritage Americans for themselves and their posterity, has frayed under the weight of tens of millions of people who were not part of the social contract that was adopted and curated for 2 centuries by the founding fathers and their posterity. Let's get down to brass tacks here. In this last election here, we see the grossest violation of the social contract that's ever been witnessed in American history. We see the open and naked disenfranchisement of the bulk of heritage America in favor of some globalist oligarchy and its local stooges. The last time this large a portion of the population felt that the social contract had been broken, the nation was engulfed in a civil war within 1 year. At present, we seem to have an illegitimate occupation government claiming to speak for us. It does so while trampling not just our rights, but the rule and culture of law, which can be traced through the Anglo-Saxon roots all the way back to Greece and Rome themselves. With statements like deplorables and bitter clingers, we can see that this cabal that has been sitting succubus-like on the chest of American posterity for generations now seeks to dispose of the host that they have bled dry. Now, I don't know about you, but I take the idea of a social contract very seriously, because I didn't sign on a dotted line explicitly for bicameral legislatures. I wasn't consulted, sadly, on immigration policy. I didn't take an oath to defend jury of the peers. I didn't negotiate my taxes. I feel that the fine line between individual rights and government fiat representing some ephemeral general will is a line which must be trod on very, very carefully. The actions of the deep state in claiming to be the legitimate government of the United States is not just pressing these boundaries, it is dancing on its corpse. What has been said in no less words is that half the country have no rights to its own destiny, has no political say, its rights under the social contract have been rendered null and void, and that next we can expect the Carthage treatment very soon. Open war is upon us, whether we wish it or not. The point at which an enemy is stabbing you with a poisoned dagger while defiling your culture is a point well past where negotiations are advisable. To crib from the late Senator Goldwater, moderation in the face of tyranny is not a virtue. Consider now that you are a target. Consider that you now have a price on your head. Consider that you yourself are an evil totem whose destruction will bring good juju to the primitive retrogrades who infest the seats of academia, the halls of government, and the levers of power. Do you believe in chivalry? You are now targeted. Do you believe in reason and rational discourse? You are now targeted. Do you believe in something other than materialistic nihilism? You're a target. Do you believe in experimental science? You are a target. Do you believe in objective beauty or objective truth? You are now a target. What do you do when you see the red dots of retrograde Marxism collecting on your chest? I'll tell you what you do. You find allies. You find cover. You procure skills. You procure tools, and you begin to fight back. For the first time in living memory, the social contract in the United States is broken. We owe no allegiance to a Vichy government full of Quislings and commissars. We do owe allegiance to our forefathers, and we do owe allegiance to our children's future. You need to form up behind me and behind other culture warriors. Our culture and all that it stands for is something that is worth fighting for. Remember, my friends, tomorrow belongs to you, to the stars.